Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Transition Places. This love thing. It is the first Monday. Now, some people call it April Fool's Day, but I don't mess with that. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. And we ain't fooling around tonight. You know what? I did not start our Instagram. What in the world? Y'all hold on. We got to start Instagram. I knew something didn't seem right. All right. We're gonna get our Instagram started here.
And it is
Wonderful. All right, wonderful. Welcome back. Now we got Instagram in with us. Thank God for everybody. This is our offering to help our couples and people who want to be couples, people who want to be couples again. There's so many things that when you are joined together as one that you have to deal with, and I think that sometimes in the body of Christ we don't do the best job at dealing with some real life issues. I am Pastor Carl Armstrong. Beside me is my lovely wife, Lady Tisha Armstrong. And one thing that we like to tell you right off the bat is that we are not clinicians. All right, we're not clinicians. We are saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, and have had some life experiences that can be very beneficial to you. And so, with that, we bring this series to you to help you to kind of get through some of the situations in life, some of the battles of life. For those of you who are already on with us in a live audience, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and start to share the broadcast and make sure you tag your family and friends. I thank God for Lady Tisha here. She's normally, if she's not here on the screen doing it, she's in the background. She starts to tag, and a lot of people do come in by way of the tag. We're live right now on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you catch us on Twitter or X, that account is under my name, Carl Armstrong. So you can catch us there. Every other place is under Transition Place on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Instagram, matter of fact, it is the Transition Place. Tonight, we're going to talk about having those difficult conversations. And you know anything about being in a relationship, there'll be times you got to have different difficult conversations with each other, the spouses. There's sometimes you got to have those difficult conversations with your children, especially when they get to those teenage years and beyond. Sometimes the conversations that you got to have in their young adult years are way more difficult than the conversations that you got to have during the teenage years.
yes.
And when they're younger, we dread those teenage years conversations. But let me tell you, some of the stuff that you got to talk about when they become young adults, it can get heavy. And so also you got to have those difficult conversations with extended family members, brothers, sisters, mamas, daddies, in-laws, cousins, nieces, nephews, and even your friends. But there is a way to approach difficult conversations that can help ease things a little bit. Difficulty is difficulty, and there's sometimes, there's nothing you can do to soften the blow of what may be just a heck of a thing to deal with. But for you who will be breaching the conversation, your approach, your wisdom, your connection to God can make the difference and how the person that you're talking to can deal with that conversation. All right. And so all of us have to have those difficult conversations. Sometimes it's looking the spouse in the face and saying, hey, you're not holding up your end of the bargain. And maybe that's because you can't. I don't know, but we need to talk about it so we can adjust. Or sometimes, let's be honest, we just need a kick in the pants. Sometimes we become complacent. Sometimes we become unmotivated. Sometimes we become lazy.
Sometimes we go from gratefulness to expectancy.
Ooh, wow. I guess I might as well start there. That's a big thing. That's a big, big thing. And I'm not sure how many of you have had to deal with that, when maybe whatever the relationship is, maybe it's spouse thing, maybe it's with the children or the grandchildren, maybe it's with, some siblings or friends or whatever, it starts out good. There's been an agreement. You're not only holding up your end of the deal, but, they get the fringe benefits just because you are the type of person who, you do what you say you're going to do. You do it the best that you can do. But maybe it just seems like the other person has gotten to a point where they're not thankful and grateful for what you do, but it's more of an expectation. And if you don't do X, Y, and Z, well, then, we have a problem. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
We've always taught our children this principle. You never ask for that which you're not willing to give. And I like when my wife touches me. So I'm conscious of touching her. I like to be touched. Tisha has a tremendous gift of healing, whether y'all know it or not. And there are times I just don't feel good. And she can touch me and I feel better. That is a true statement. And so I love to be touched. I love to be caressed. I love it when she rubs my head, rubs my shoulder. It don't matter where she rubs me, it feels good. I love that, right? But I will not allow myself to get to the point where I'm just going to come plop down in front of her and expect her to do X, Y, and Z. And the way I approach her is not asking, or you know what I mean? It's one thing to say, my dear, I don't feel too well. You think you can rub my shoulders for me? And that's kind of sweet, right? Especially when I'm also sharing physical touch with her. But if I just, throw my feet on her, like, what time it is, get the massaging, I'm going to cause her to have a difficult conversation with me. So one of the ways to avoid those difficult conversations is we have to reciprocate. In other words, that what you expect out of the person that you're in a relationship with, whether it be a spouse or a child, a grandchild, a sibling, a niece, a nephew, a coworker, a friend, we have to learn how to reciprocate. Now, all of us are not good at that. For some of us, it takes a lot of effort to reciprocate. Not that we don't want to, it's just that our mind may be somewhere totally different. Maybe our area of service is somewhere else. I like to get my feet rubbed, but maybe, I never think about rubbing feet. The way I think about reciprocating is I'm going to cook dinner, I'm going to do this. You got to find out what your person's love language is. Mm-hmm. Not just your spouse, your children. You got to find out what your children's love language is. How about those other people that you are in relationship with? What's their love language? Now some people love language, may not be the best in the world, and it may be ungodly. So we don't mess with that. We don't allow people to put us in a position where we're doing things that are ungodly or things that are unhealthy, unclean. We're not going to do that. But there are some things that can help you approach the difficult conversation. I learned this from a very wise man, Pastor Timothy Wright. He gave me some advice. He said, in your communication, use the 3 F's. Be firm, be frank, be fair. Did y'all hear that? The 3 F's in communication. Be firm, be frank, be fair. And when you do that, you can cut to the chase. I'm a person who, when it's time to have conversation, I don't like using more words than I have to. And I don't like anybody using more words on me than they have to. If we need to have a conversation, I don't want to hee-haw. You don't have to butter me up. I expect you to be kind. I expect you to be respectful. I expect for you to approach me the way that you want me to approach you. I expect all those things because that's how I'm going to give it to you. You know what I mean? But we want to be firm, frank, and fair. Firm in that when we have to build structure in our relationship, in other words, boundaries, when you know your boundaries, you know what your acceptable behaviors are, you know what your deal breakers are. You have to be firm in your communication. That doesn't mean you have to take your fist and slam it down on the table and raise your voice.
Right.
That just means you let the person know this is a non-negotiable. You know, I'm not going to agree to something that I know I'm not going to stick to. That's just not going to work. I can't do that. So that's where the firmness comes from. Being frank, that means get to the point. Get to the point. I don't want to communicate in such a way that you have to ask me 3 or 4 questions about what I'm talking about. No, I want to communicate in a way that you have a very clear understanding of what it is that I'm trying to say to you. Right? So we got firm, frank, and fair. Now, when you set boundaries and expectations in your relationship, let's make sure that you understand that you're going to set boundaries and you're going to set structure that you yourself can maintain.
Mm-hmm.
You don't set a boundary for another person and then you violate the boundary. I'll give you something real simple. Let's say you're the type of person that when you sit down with your spouse, you like to take liberty at eating off of their plate. Okay? Maybe your spouse is the type, they don't like to share their food, you know, but you take great liberty in eating off of their plate. But when they take their fork and reach across to your plate, you get upset. That's not fair. So when we're having those difficult conversations, especially when we are the initiator of the difficult conversation, we have to be fair. I'm not saying being firm, frank, and fair is all that it takes, but it is a wonderful place to start. And I hope y'all wrote those 3 F's down. Be firm, be frank, be fair. I will also say this in a difficult conversation. Maybe you have written down what you want to say. Maybe you have in your mind what you think is going on. Maybe you have in your mind, maybe you gather some evidence so you understand some things. Can I say something to you? Make sure that you're open-minded.
Yes.
I don't ask a question knowing, air quotes, that I have all the answers. I may have a portion of the answer, but I'm going to ask a question and I'm going to settle myself and listen to the answer. And I'm not listening to respond. I'm listening to understand. We need to put a period right there. There needs to be emphasis there. You don't listen to respond. That's being argumentative. This is not a debate. We're having a conversation because we're trying to fix something. You listen to understand. Now, some people confuse understanding with agreement. Because I understand doesn't mean that I agree. And because I disagree, that doesn't mean I don't understand. I've heard people tell me, no, you just don't understand. No, I understand very well. I disagree with what you're saying. And let me explain to you how and why I disagree. When I disagree, I can explain why. Right? Especially when I'm talking to a peer or a superior. When we're talking to our children, it's maybe not the best time to explain all the time. Sometimes children need to know, do what you're told. As I was raising my children, when they got to their preteen years, I became more of an explainer because, I had done the structure part in their formative years. Now, as they get to their teenage years, they're going to be spending less time around mom and dad and a lot more time in school and around other people because they get involved in activities, right? Mm-hmm. And I want them to have the ability to think and communicate. I want them to understand why I'm asking them. In the formative years, just do what I tell you to do, right? But as they begin to mature and understand, I want them to understand why, because why is important. You ever had a conversation with a grown person and you ask them why they did something, they do one of these? I don't know. There are not many things that make me more frustrated than that.
It toast my almonds.
Who toast your almonds? Oh, listen, I think it's unacceptable for an adult to do something and not know why you did it. My dad would tell me when I was a teenager. Now, I'm going to clean the language up. He wasn't very clean when he said something. He said, if you're doing something and you don't know why you're doing it, stop, because you're probably messing something up. Now, he didn't say it quite that nicely. Y'all know what I mean? He was emphatic about how he would communicate that, because us telling our parents that we didn't know, that was bad news right there. You had to say, I don't know, and duck. That was that was not an acceptable answer, because we were charged with always knowing why we do something. You don't do something because your friend did it. You don't do something because I feel like it. You do it because you need to be motivated to do what's good and right. And if I did it because it's good and right, I can explain it. Really, if I did it because it's bad, I can explain that too. But when you got parents like I had, that's a difficult conversation. When you're wrong and you know you're wrong and you know that they know that you're wrong, that's a difficult conversation. So what are we saying? We're saying that there's got to be a certain approach to the difficult conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be really skilled at how you structure it. Now, I want y'all to feel very comfortable in making comments and asking questions, because you may be dealing with something specifically that we can help you with here while we're on the air. We're not here to try to demonstrate how much we know or don't know. We're here because we want to offer help. I know that in the body of Christ, in many churches, these type of conversations are not happening. And so Lady Tisha and I want to do our best to create a platform where we can have these open and honest conversations. The only dumb question is the one that you don't ask, right? None of us have your life experience. None of us have your specific point of view. So when you ask a question or make a comment, it is very, very helpful to what we're doing. So far, we got the 3 F's in communicating: to be firm, be frank, be fair. And we've got the skill of, listen, you have got to be open-minded in your conversation. It's already a difficult conversation. I got to talk to you about your personal hygiene. It's a difficult conversation. You ever had to talk to a coworker about their personal hygiene or lack thereof?
Yes.
That's a difficult conversation.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Especially if you're having that conversation in the workplace, because you don't have to just be concerned about, upsetting them personally. You have to make sure you don't put yourself in a position where you're not violating company policy, right? Yes. And so, once again, we have to watch how we talk to people. What if somebody that you really love and respect is having a serious problem with halitosis? Maybe they're nose blind, but every time they talk, it's killing you. How do you have that conversation without offending them? Well, you can't say offend, because people get offended at when you can have the nicest offering in the world and they'll be offended. But how do you have that conversation without being rude or disrespectful, right? One thing, we don't correct people in front of others. That's a general rule. Now, if I'm dealing with a child of mine who has been stubborn, sometimes a little embarrassment is the case. But I don't use embarrassment when I'm dealing with grown folks. When you're dealing with sensitive topics, it is really, really good to pull someone to a place where you can have a private conversation. God bless you, Sister Nikki. Nobody really likes to be embarrassed. Nobody likes to be called out in front of others. If we're in a meeting and somebody says something that's really unfruitful, maybe even a little silly, I generally will not correct in front of the group. But if you're out there, the group already knows. But if I'm leading the meeting right? A person in an authority. I don't want to talk to that person who is wrong in a way that now they're afraid to give their input to a meeting. But you got to pull them aside and let them know that, you were wrong in there. And this is why. And you may want to do it this way next time. Have you considered this? Am I making sense to you all?
Mm-hmm.
So we've done that in a way that did not take away their dignity, right? We didn't embarrass them. And now there are some people who are so bashful and or so, what's the word for it? You got some people who are really arrogant and they don't think they can do any wrong. And so when you got people who are really, really bashful or really, really arrogant, it's difficult not to offend them. Even the best approaches can be very, very offensive, even when you're not trying. And so it makes a difficult conversation even that much more difficult. Right? God bless you, Sister Pam Peters. Maybe you got somebody who works for you and you're trying to motivate them. Now, in the military, and I'm sure Sister Nichols can affirm this, it was a little different environment, a little different tactic. Nobody really cared about your feelings. You were told that you were screwing up, and they didn't say it that nicely. You were told, you were reminded of what the standard was, and you were motivated in whatever way they sought to get yourself right in the quickest time slot available, or there would be consequences. And sometimes we would have what's called a significant emotional event. She said, say it again. Yes. Yeah. I'm sure Sister Nikki remember those significant emotional events. But one thing I realized very quickly after my military service, that type of correction and motivation and leadership is very ineffective in the civilian world. People who have not had a very disciplined upbringing, people who have not had a very disciplined, structured environment like the military, they don't do well when we are as direct. In the military, your instructions come very direct. Your correction comes very direct. Your feelings are most of the time not considered at all. It's all about the mission. But I've learned that leadership in the civilian world is not quite like that. You have to have the power of influence, and you have to understand corporate politics, right? And you have to use some grace and some tact, right? There is a professional level of tact and professional courtesy that needs to be used depending on who you're talking to. If you are a senior talking to a subordinate certain kind of ways, in a lot of these companies, you get yourself in a lot of trouble. If you are a subordinate talking to a senior any kind of way, according to a lot of the policies in these companies, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. Good to see you, Miss Brandy. Good to see you. We're talking about having these difficult conversations. I'm going to tell y'all once again, your questions and or input is valued. And so we started off saying that our approach to the way we have the conversation, we have to use the 3 F's. Be firm, be frank, be fair. We have to be open-minded. We listen to understand and not listen to respond. When we listen to respond, we're trying to have a debate. When we listen to understand, we're trying to have a conversation so we can come to a mutual understanding. And when you have a mutual understanding, you can agree to disagree and not be angry. Maybe you got different ways of getting to the same place. Brandy, I love that. Brandy says, I prefer gentle honesty. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what we're saying. Right. And we didn't get too much of that in the military, did we, Brandy?
Yeah. It's basically saying at the end of the day, you deal with people the way that you want for people to deal with you. At the end of the day, everybody wants to be treated with the utmost respect, never to be mistreated, and, handled with care. I don't care who you are, where you come from, and where you are in life. Everybody wants to be handled with care, in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's true. And I love what Brandy said. She said, when people communicate with me honestly, I feel respected. Brandy, thank you for saying that.
Yes.
Um, how can I say this? I really don't like dealing with liars.
Oh,
Um, it's a difficult thing for me um, to know that I'm being lied to, or to know that I'm being kind of fluffed up. I don't like flattery, especially when I know that flattery is a setup to ask me for something. I don't trust that. And it goes back to what we said in the beginning: be firm, be frank, be fair. Come on, let's get to it. You know, we can be humble and we can be kind, but whatever the conversation is, let's go ahead and get to it. If you need something from me, just ask me,
mhm.
right? I work in the medical environment, but I'm not a clinician myself. I'm in telecommunications slash IT. So my customers are the employees, the team members. I don't like it when I get the batting of the eyes or the little cute smile from somebody who just 2 days ago you walked past me and you act like you didn't know who I was. I know when I see that you're about to ask me for something. You don't have to do that. There's a standard way to request things. It's called a ticket. Just open the ticket. Or if you need to just ask me a question, or maybe you need a favor, just let's get to it. You won't have to spend no. Let's just get to it. And that gentle honesty, yes, I don't like to be handled roughly. Now, I can be very rough around the edges. I didn't forget how to do it. I can be very direct and very curt. I didn't forget how to do it. But I know that most of the time when you're trying to get things done, those ways of communication are very ineffective, right? Very ineffective. I save those for when I'm dealing with obtuse people. Y'all know what that means, right? We're dealing with someone who's obtuse. They don't understand gentle honesty. Sometimes you have to look them in the face. This is what I want you to do, and I want it done at this time. This is how I want it done, and I'm not going to be accepting anything less than what I asked for. But I'm gonna save that for those type of people. You know what I mean? Oh yes, that's the word I was thinking of. But yeah,
Manipulators.
when you deal with a narcissist who is a master manipulator, a master charlatan, a sweet talker, you got to cut to the chase. Gentle honesty doesn't work with them because they don't see that as kindness and professionalism. They see that as weakness.
Yeah, they see it as somebody that they can, get over on, and they don't deal with you in a respectful manner.
They only respect coming out of the gate swinging.
And when you deal with them in a harsh manner, that's what they understand and respect.
Hate to say it, but there's some people like that.
Mhm.
Some of these alpha personalities, you gotta be straight to the point and don't give them a lot of room. I don't like that.
I don't either.
I don't like to deal with people who I have to always be on guard. You know, every little thing you say will be turned against you. That's the game that they play, and narcissists definitely do that. That makes a difficult conversation way more difficult than it has to be. We talk about when you're talking to folks who have halfway good sense, right? Halfway good sense. There are things that we can do. Be kind, be respectful. When you're in a professional environment, be professional. Even when you're talking to your friends in a friendly type of relationship, your friends still want to be respected. Yes, you can let your hair down. You can say things to your friend that you couldn't say to your coworker or your supervisor or your pastor, right? When you're with your friends, you can let your hair down and you can use a form of communication that's less formal, right?
Yes.
And you can use some words that you wouldn't use in other environments because your friends, all those walls have been torn down. But still, your friend deserves kindness.
Mhm.
Still, your friend deserves respect and honor. Still, your friend deserves honesty. I'm a firm believer that we can't grow from a lie. A lie can make me feel good. That's the truth. A lie can make me feel good. A lie can maybe pacify me for a while, but I don't believe that we grow from lies. You got to grow from the truth. And sometimes we're so concerned with hurting a person's feelings until we'll allow certain behaviors to continue, which is going to be more harmful and hurtful to them than you correcting them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you the truth. I got to slip this in here. Speaking of difficult conversations, there are a lot of us who got some kids who need for us to have a difficult conversation with them. Some of the things that we see with this younger generation, and I'm just not talking about them being younger and we're aging, we don't understand. I'm talking about basic things like respect, the ability to follow instructions, right? Not expecting to be the new person on the scene and expecting to be the boss, the leader. You don't walk in like that. You walk in with humility, not pride.
Mm-hmm.
You walk in with a questioning attitude, not thinking that you're going to give orders. You walk in knowing that you were the last one in, right? The newest person on the team. It may be wise to do way more listening than talking. But there's something that is lacking in our young people that we as the parents and grandparents, we need to have some difficult conversations. Some of this stuff need to be fixed, right?
Yes.
And Brandy says, I think social media and texting has helped break verbal conversations. Brandy, you are right. She says, we don't talk anymore. We text and hide behind a screen. Brandy, you know what? You're right. And let me say this. I think that's a mixed bag. I think that our technology is at a point where we don't need to have a meeting for something that we can resolve for in two exchanges of text or email, right? I don't like to go to meetings that I don't need to be in. It to me is a waste of time. And not because I'm impersonal, is a waste of time because I'm a very busy person. I have so many things to do, so many places to be. The last thing I want to do is to burden myself with a meeting that really does not need to be had. But the only reason why we're having a meeting is because you got a person who prefers face-to-face rather than just asking a question, right?
Mm-hmm.
If one of my customers needs something done that can be requested in a ticket, I'm probably not going to accept the meeting request. What we need to have a meeting for? You need 5 phones and you need them to do this. Just put it in the ticket. I take care of it. We don't need to have a meeting for that. And I have enough meetings. So I hope that I'm dealing with your question. But you're right when it comes to our children. What bothers me is we're in the same room. Why are we texting each other? We're in the same room. The same room. Put the phone down. Let's have a conversation. Right? These are the things I'm talking about. And interpersonal skills with our younger generation. And we see it in the workplace. We see it in the workplace. Very impersonal. I remember, oh man, I got to share this with you. This happened at work. This young lady and I scheduled a meeting. I was going to do it in service. And the meeting was scheduled to start at 10 o'clock. And so on our calendars, God bless you, Pastor Phyllis. That's my mother-in-law. That's Tisha's mother, y'all. See how beautiful she is. I was going to do it in person with her. And on our calendars, you can only block, the least amount of time you can block is 30 minutes. So I think it's pretty commonly acceptable that if our time starts at 10, that means you need to be there at 10. That doesn't mean that you can show up anytime between 10 and 10:30. That's what we understand, right? So the first time I scheduled with this young lady, I waited till about 10:15. Nobody knew where she was. She hadn't called me. I have several ways you can contact me. I checked my email to see if she had left me an email. I checked messages. I got my phone. If you call my phone, it's going to ring. And so I said, okay, well, I'm done. So I'm walking out of her office. She's coming running down the hall. She says, wait a minute. I said, no, you got to reschedule. She said, but we had 30 minutes. I said, yeah, but I've been waiting on you for 15. You know what I can get accomplished in 15 minutes? No, just reschedule. And the same thing happened. And so I told her, I said, I am not going to schedule another meeting with you. And I told her director, I said, because she reported to a director, I said, listen, there's some unprofessionalism there. This is what happened. I will no longer accept meetings from her. If there's something that you want to communicate to me, I'll hear it from you. I really don't. I'm not going to waste any more of my time with her. And I really do believe that came from her being a part of the text generation, interpersonal skills. What planet do you have to be from to think that if our meeting is from 10 to 10:30, you can show up anytime between 10 and 10:30? You show up at the start of the meeting. And Sister Karen, you remember this from the Army? On time is late and early is on time. You got to value people's time. God bless you, Ministers Rachel and Colin Taylor. God bless you. You got to value people's time, right? And that's another thing about having difficult conversations. Be where you're supposed to be. Have the right attitude. Be approachable, right? Be pliable. Don't be so firm that you're not flexible at all. I really believe in conversation. You got to be firm, got to be frank, got to be fair, got to be open-minded, right? Got to be kind, got to be honest. But Lord knows, if we already got to have a difficult conversation, don't be late for the conversation. Be on time, be prepared. It's difficult for me when we're trying to work through something and you're asking a person a question, they, or you ask a person a question and they answer everything but the question that you ask them. Don't answer what you think I'm trying to ask. I know exactly what I'm trying to ask. Answer the question. And if you don't want to answer the question, just say you don't want to answer the question. And I can move on. But I don't know why people do that. Maybe y'all can help me. Why did you answer the question that's not being asked? Answer the question that's asked. That way we can get right to the point, right? And the Taylors say, especially if you're having a difficult conversation, right? You're making a difficult conversation even more difficult because we got to use all these words because you keep answering the question that I'm not asking you. What in the world? But she said, if you get there 10 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late. Yeah, that was a general rule in the military. Yeah, be 15 minutes early. And you still got looked at if you was 14 and a half minutes early. Yeah. Early is on time, and on time is late. And I know that retired Marine, Colin Taylor, can tell you that. Lord knows, don't show up to Dr. Taylor's meetings late. Don't do that, y'all. He's a nice person, but don't do that. Don't do that. Don't show up late. Right? So I want to know y'all's comments and questions. We're trying to do our best here to help you to have these difficult conversations. And listen, the difficult conversations are not just with the spouse. What about those conversations you got to have with your siblings, your children, your friends, your coworker? You got that coworker, you can smell the alcohol on them. You don't want them to get in trouble, right? You don't want them to get in trouble. You want to help them, but you already know they're not the easiest people to talk to, right? They're not the easiest people to talk to. How do you approach that person who may be having a substance abuse problem or maybe having a difficult time and maybe the way they're dealing with it is drinking? How do you have that conversation? How do you have the conversation with the coworker that it's Tuesday morning, but they smell like Sunday night? How do you have that conversation? It needs to happen, right? It needs to happen. How do we do it?
You need to do it with tact. And you have that conversation. I think a lot of times when you have difficult conversations, you try to put yourself in that person's shoes. How would you want somebody to address you if it were you? Number one, me personally, like you said, you don't want to come off like I'm not trying to come for you, but because I do like you as a person, I do respect you. I need to tell you this because I do respect you, that I see that there is an issue and I'm trying to do my part for you as a friend, or as a family member that has great respect and concern for you, blah, 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 blah. As a parent that has 4 adult children, you know, I have great respect for you. You are now an adult. I have respect for you. I understand that you are an adult, and I respect that you are, and that you can make adult decisions. But I am concerned. Yes, I am a mother, but I am concerned, and therefore I'm going to do what it is that I can to make sure that I help you and go from there.
You know what? Brandy and Rachel Taylor have said something that I really want to deal with. Man, this is so good. What y'all just said. Rachel Taylor said, "Say something nice first," and then Brandy said, uh, "With empathy, you approach." Because we use the two things. You know, the person that you work with maybe smelling like alcohol, maybe having a personal hygiene issue. Let's start from the end of the conversation first. What if you find out in that conversation with the person who may be smelling like alcohol or may have, very strong body odor? What if you find out that for the last couple of days they've been homeless and living out of their car, and they're so depressed? Because you can't say, "Well, I don't have access to running water." Let me tell you, with imagination, you can do a lot of things. But sometimes a person is so hurt, so down, they can't pull themselves up. But if you use some of the things that we've been talking about earlier, you pull them aside so that you don't embarrass them. You're kind, you say something nice, and you approach them with empathy. And because you've done that, they feel comfortable to say, "Man, for the last couple of days, I've been living out of my car. I haven't had the opportunity to take a bath. I lost my place. Or I was put out. I'm being abused by my husband. I'm being abused by my wife." You know what I mean? Maybe somebody sexually assaulted me. Now you've put yourself in a position because you approached them so nicely, so kindly, so empathetically, and you've done it in an environment where it's just you and them. Now you can offer help behind the scenes. And listen, somebody like that, they need some help. Maybe you need to take them to your house, allow them to use your facilities. You know what I mean? Wash those clothes that are stuck up in the car. Get a chance to bathe themselves. Get a chance to stretch out. Maybe you have an extra bed. Maybe your situation doesn't deem that you're able to put them up for the next 2 or 3 months, but maybe you can do it for 2 or 3 nights so that they can, get a good night's rest, have some well-cooked meals, just cool their heels so they can think, and then you can help them to think about the next move, right? I want to deal with some of these comments. The Taylor said, "Start with something they are doing right first. Period. No buts. Understanding it. Concern, not a fix." There you go. And Brandy says, "And make it safe, but don't make any promises." Right, 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 right. And the Taylor say, "Exactly. We always want to not hurt or not make it worse." Right. Now let's flip that. You're not dealing with a person who's having that problem. You're dealing with a person who has a maturity issue, has an issue, just for lack of a better word, maybe somebody just a little trifling. Even though we're still going to approach with kindness, with empathy, because we don't know. But when you find out what happens when they get angry, because you tell them, "Listen, if I can smell you, the others probably can too. But I don't want to be a person to talk behind your back. I wanted to pull you aside and let you know, is there anything I can do to help you?" And maybe they get angry. Maybe they become violent. Maybe they want to report you to the supervisor. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with it?
I'm just saying, hypothetically, if I brought it to someone's attention and they reported me to the manager, and the manager came and asked me something, I would say, what I was trying to do was trying to address an issue with them privately, because I was not trying to embarrass them. And they got offended because I was trying to address something. At this point, you would need to address it because they brought it up to your manager and say, there is an issue with, for example, body odor. I was trying to address the issue with them in regards to their body odor, and I was trying to be discreet and address it with this person, and they were offended and they brought it to you. I was trying to be discreet, and I asked if there was something that I could do to help. If there, whatever the issue was, I'm just saying, if they said no, I'm not homeless or anything along those lines. And they got offended because I thought maybe they were homeless, or maybe I didn't assume that they were homeless, or asked if I could help them in any way. And they got offended by that. And, I apologize for maybe being presumptuous, but I was just coming from a standpoint of helping. And,
Yeah. Brandy says boundaries, and Brandy, you are so right. That person may get upset because they feel like you crossed a boundary with them. Well, let me tell you, when you have difficult conversations, you have to know that sometimes those are not going to end well. One way I learned how to deal with that is I don't hold grudges. I do not hold grudges. Sometimes a person's initial reaction is not the end of the story. They may blow up and get angry, but after they calm down, they may remember how kind you were, how tactful you were, how respectful you were for pulling them aside. You know what I mean? So maybe when they calm down, they'll get it. But I've learned not to be reactionary to a person's initial response, especially when you're bringing a difficult conversation to them.
right.
And I had to learn that the hard way. I used to be very reactionary, but after having some very negative things happen, and maturity. When you allow Jesus in your life, it smooths out those rough edges.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the tailor says. Okay, what if a person had that thing in their nose, or lipstick on their teeth, or giving a brief? I know your audience and who you're dealing with. We don't know the level of people's hurt or what their traumas or triggers are. You're right. And that's why we're having that conversation, right? Because we want to be able to make the approach the right way. We all have to have difficult conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to do our best to take as much difficulty of it out as we can and just have the conversation. There's some things that are so touchy, because you're right, Rachel Taylor. We don't always know what a person's level of trauma is. We don't know what their triggers are. And that's why it is wise and prudent to approach with that kindness, to approach with a certain level of tact, to be very discreet. Tisha mentioned discretion. Yes, that is. And Brandon says, when I want to clap back, I try to remember the fruits of the Spirit. Yes. I got to do a lot of remembering, Brandy. A lot of remembering.
Well, let me tell you what I did, for example. I've been in situations before where people have had those little boogers in their nose and lipstick on their teeth. Let me tell you what I do. I pull them to the side. I say, "Excuse me, you got a bat in the cave." I try to pull them to the side and kind of make a little joke of it. And then, for a woman, I say, "Go like this." Because most women, they would not want to walk around with lipstick all over their teeth. And there is nothing worse than giving a presentation and you got a bat flying in the cave. Everybody is horrified to know that bat has been flapping the whole time in your presentation. So I just kindly say, you have a bat in the cave.
Right.
Nobody knows what the bat in the cave is.
And I like this, what the tailor said. Bottom line, what place are you truly coming from? Be careful to come from a place of love and concern. And that's what we're getting to. That is exactly what we're getting to. Love has to be the motivation. Love has to be the basis. And when love is the motivation and the basis, that's going to push you to do things in a certain way. And even if you get a negative response, that love, along with Christian maturity, is going to allow you to be able to absorb. I'm at a point now where I can absorb some fiery darts. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to get back.
Right.
And Pastor Sear says we have to have spiritual discernment to meet people where they are. You just broke the egg open with that. That's big. That's a big, big thing. And now when you talk about that spiritual discernment, we're talking about, for some people, That's purely in your gifting. And for some of us, that comes along with maturing in Christ. We get that as we come along to be able to discern. And that's why it is very important to listen way more than we speak, right? Now, when you talk about Mother Sears here, and let me tell you something, it don't take her long. her gift of discernment is so sharp that usually within a few minutes, she understands what she's dealing with. For those of us who may not have that gift in that abundance, we may want to spend a little bit more time observing not just for what is going on. Sometimes it's good to see what's not going on. Yeah, I heard what you said, but I also heard what you didn't say. What's missing here? Why are you behaving that way? I don't just look at the behavior. I'm trying to figure out, well, what's motivating that? Because sometimes a person's behavior, if we're not careful, we look at them as the problem. But the behavior is a reaction to what the real problem is.
Right.
Everything that y'all are saying is hitting the nail on the head. Discernment, patience, empathy, discretion, kindness. Hey, how about the golden rule? Do unto others as you have them do unto you. How do I want to be approached, right? When I got the toilet paper hanging out of my pants.
Off the back of your shoe.
Right. I mean, you want somebody to laugh and important, or you want somebody to come in and give you a big old bear hug and say, come on, man. Like, bro, I had to get you out of that hog. You had that toilet paper hanging from your pants, man. Bro, thank you. You know what I mean? So there's a way to do it. Oh, man. Discernment, Urban Dictionary defines as common sense. Lady Pam, I love you. But I'm going to tell you something I learned about common sense. Common sense ain't so common because we don't come from a common background. We didn't have, Tisha and I, one of the reasons why we get along so well is because of our parents. Our parents come from very similar backgrounds. They come from the same region. And to be honest with you, we compare notes about like the rules that we had as kids and how our parents corrected and disciplined us. It is so close that for Tisha and I, common sense is common between us because we came from a very common background and we were raised in common ways. So when common sense can't get it done, we got to have some understanding and some empathy. Remember, the scripture tells us, in all thy getting, get an understanding. And all thy getting, get an understanding. And what was this? What the why? The bottom line, how will God be glorified? What's the point? Yes. In other words, if we're going to approach somebody, what's the point of it? I love that. And once again, remember I told you what my dad would tell me, if you're doing something, you don't know why you're doing it, stop, because you're probably messing up. Yeah, you got to know why you're approaching this person. You should know what the desired outcome is. You should know why, right? If it's to help them, you're trying to help someone, that's a great thing to do. But you got to know when help is help and when help is hindrance.
Right.
How about the difficult conversation we got to have with our children, right? When you got to have that difficult conversation with your preteen about their private parts and who should and shouldn't be touching them, right? When you're trying to talk to them about premarital sex, when you're trying to talk to them about acceptable behavior, when you got that adult child who is not practicing what you taught them, and they're not taking care of their family the way they're supposed to. They're not treating their spouse the way they were taught to do. They're not raising their children in a way that's going to be beneficial to the child. Man, that's a tough conversation. It's not tough because some parents can just get right to it, but it can be tough because you don't know how they're going to respond, right? It may be easy for you as the parent, but it might not be easy for them. Is there a reason that they're not meeting the mark, right? Good evening to you, Cherie. God bless you, dear. Is there a reason that they're not meeting the mark, right? Oh, this is juicy. Brandy, why you keep doing this to me? Sometimes words don't work. Thank you for that input. Let me tell you, I've been in those situations. There are sometimes the difficult conversation that you need to have is a hug. The difficult conversation that you need to have is $1,000 that you put in their hand, because that's the answer. The hug is the answer. The bringing them to your house is the answer. Taking them to the store is the answer. Praying for them and getting them to understand what true deliverance is the answer. Mm-hmm. Helping them to repent. Sometimes words alone just don't get it done. Brandy, I thank you for that. Sometimes a difficult conversation is a conversation without words. It takes action. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I love about Miss Phyllis Sears. She's very good at that. That's one person. If she's in your corner, she's in your corner, and seems to do very well at knowing when it's time to talk and when it's time to let's get busy. You know what I mean? Listen, we're going to start to wrap up for today. I told Tisha when we were planning this, I said, we will not get all this done in one episode. So we have already know that before the month is out, we're going to have to come back with a part 2 on this difficult conversation. I love your input. I love your questions. I pray that what we've offered today has been helpful to you. You never know who's in your audience, who may not even say anything, but the thing that you're talking about is exactly what they're going through. And maybe something that you said tonight, whether it was a comment that you made or a question that you asked, may have been just the thing that the person in the audience needed to hear. And so I thank y'all for rolling with us.
Yes.
We're ineffective without you. And I'm hoping that as you grow and learn with us here at Transition Place in the many different ways we minister, I'm hoping that you're not keeping it just for yourself, but you're going out and spreading and sharing what you know. Each one teach one. Okay? We don't keep this for ourselves. And I'm going to go back to something that the Taylor said. What's the end game? How does it glorify God? Let me make it very, very clear. Elder Timothy Armstrong preached for Transition Place yesterday, and the name of the message was, All Roads Lead to the Resurrection. And in ministry, all roads need to lead to salvation. You know why we're here? You know why we labor in ministry? That souls will be saved, and that those who are saved will be edified. That's why you hear me use the tagline many times, let's learn and grow together. Oh, I really mean that. Maybe I need to get that. Yeah, I need to do something about that legally. You know, come on, let's learn and grow together. That's what it's all about. Remember, this year, all year, our theme, staying connected to the vine and producing fruit, right? Lamika, how you doing? She said, the first time on live with you all. Good stuff. Oh, man, wonderful. I'm so glad you came in with us. We do this every first Monday, and we've already decided this first Monday not going to be enough, so we got to do part 2 on this conversation, yes. Having difficult conversations.
Love you too, Mama.
Yes, right, brother. This is good. This is good when the community comes together to help each other. Whether you are a member of Transition Place or not, that is the least of importance. The important thing is that we do the work that we were sent to do, which is to be a help. I'll say again, Tisha and I are not clinicians, but we are saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Spirit, and have had some life experiences that we don't mind sharing with you.
And if it means that we go through it so you don't have to, we're willing to share so you don't make the same mistakes that we made.
Some of them rocks that hit me, ooh, I wouldn't wish them on you. And I have been hit with some rocks, you hear me? And I'm sure some of you have too. That's why you were able to
hit with boulders.
Yes. That's why some of you are so able to give this input. And for those of you who are not giving input, but you're sitting back and you're soaking it in, that's all right too. Because there are seasons in our life where, you know what, we need to be reaping. We need to be poured into. We need to be fed, right? And then after you get full, after you've gotten enough, then you're able to have input and do other things. It's all right. Wherever you are in your journey with the Lord, even if you haven't started it yet, there's going to be something here at Transition Place for you. Right. I want to remind you, and I'm going to put this schedule up so you can see it for yourself. Every first Monday, just like tonight, we're doing this love thing. and it's called the Ministry of Intimate Relationships. We deal with all kinds of subjects. And as you can see, Tisha and I, we don't deal in the King James when it comes to these things. We keep it all the way real. Then we're gonna keep it all the way holy. Now we're not gonna become ungodly, but this is a place where you can kind of let your hair down and let us love on you, and we're gonna come together and get real answers to real questions and real problems. Okay, that's what we're saying. Every third Tuesday, preaching at the place. How many of y'all love good, sound, effective preaching? Oh, I love it. Every third Tuesday, right around 7 o'clock. Yes, I said 7 o'clock. You're going to get another installment of good, sound, effective preaching. I love good preaching, and I love preachers. And I love it so much that I want to offer it to you. And I'll tell you something I learned from the church I was born into, founded and pastored by none other than Bishop Herman Clark Sr. He told us that he loved us so much that when he reached out to get visiting preachers, he only went and got the best. I feel that way about you. So when I ask these preachers to come in and help me, or whether it's on a Sunday or to come in here for preaching at the place, I only get the best because I want the best for you. Cherie says, count me in. Every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're teaching. That's called Transition Story. It is our biblical teaching arm. Every Friday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sundays at noon, we're preaching, baby. Like my pastor Timothy Wright told me, Sunday's coming and the preacher has got to preach. You can't out-preach the preacher unless the preacher don't preach. So Sunday mornings, we're preaching every morning, 7 days a week, 365 a year at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Transition Place partners with the morning hour of prayer. I am one of the 5 prayer leaders. As a matter of fact, next week, Monday through Tuesday, will be my week to lead prayer. But if you want to come in with us, you can catch it on our Facebook page, or you go to the Morning Hour of Prayer, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You catch it every morning, 6 a.m. And if you can't catch it at 6, then you can catch it on the playback anytime that you can. And I love this from the teller. She said, be real with us. We want the unadulterated truth. Oh, yes. Amen. And let me let y'all know, this very special lady to us, Pastor Phyllis Sears, Mother Phyllis Sears, her birthday is tomorrow. Yeah. Let me show you how. I'm not going to tell you her age because it ain't, we're not supposed to tell a woman's age. But if I told you her age, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. You just wouldn't believe it. But her birthday is tomorrow. Let me tell you something. There are not many people in the world like this woman of God. She is giving. She is loving. She is honest. And if you spend any time around her, you won't have any excuse for not making it into heaven. And I'm going to tell you right now, if she ever meets you, she is going to ask you, do you know Jesus?
Yes, she is.
I'm going to tell you right now. And if your answer is yes, she going to ask you something to check to see how much you know him. I'm just trying to tell you now. And if your answer is no, that you don't know him in the pardon of your sins, it's going to be difficult to get away from a conversation with her without knowing him. And that's one of the things we love about her. We're going to help her celebrate tomorrow and the days coming. And Mother, thank God for you. We know what to do without you. Happy early birthday. Before the clock strikes 12, we want to tell you happy birthday and we love you. All right?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Lamika, I'm so glad that you were with us tonight. Thank you so much. Mother, they already wishing you happy birthday. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all so much. Listen, y'all, Tisha and I, we're going to wrap up for this evening, but we're going to be back with you on Friday night. Remember, on Friday will be the first lesson in our second quarter teaching. The overall theme for 2024 is staying connected to the vine, which is Jesus Christ, and producing fruit. But y'all, in this quarter, guess what we're dealing with? Overcoming sins. Oh, we're going to deal with it. All the dirty little nasty stuff that this flesh is something else. This flesh. But if we want to stay connected to the vine and produce fruit, we got to find a way to overcome this flesh. And they're right, Pastor Sears. We got to find a way to overcome it. If you meet us on Friday nights at 8 o'clock, we're going to teach. And you will know. Come on, let's learn and grow together. Thank y'all so much for all the birthday wishes. Y'all have helped us to wish Mother a happy birthday. We certainly appreciate you. We're going to say good night for now, but we'll meet you back here on Friday. Please be looking for the notification. And I think what I'm going to try to do is put out the whole month lesson so you can start studying, preparing. So you come on Friday night, you come with the guns loaded and ready. All right. Until Friday night, may God bless you. May heaven smile upon you. Tisha and I love you. Mother Phyllis love you. And Jesus does too. Now, look, I'm going to tell you something. Don't leave home without Jesus. I tried it. I ain't going to tell you all my business, but I'm going to tell you it didn't work out. I will never leave home without him no more. Don't do what I did. Don't go where I went. Take Jesus everywhere you go. Until next time.
All right, y'all.
See
Take
you
care.
later.
Be blessed.
Bye.